Hello and welcome. I'm Elaine Canyon, sweetly writing happily ever after, one book at a time. And today I'm helping you self-publish on a shoestring budget. Okay, so this is a slightly different setup than normal, and that's because I'm actually at my computer and I'm going to be walking you through a tour of Fictionary and all of the awesome things that Fictionary does. And I wanted to be able to show you, and doing that here at my computer is a heck of a lot easier than looking at my camera and recording it and then trying to overlay everything on top of my recording. So we're going to jump right in. Again, let me put out the disclaimer. I get nothing for this. This is literally just something that I believe in, that I really think is a worthwhile investment, especially when you're trying to self-publish and spend as little money as possible and you put most of your investment in time as opposed to cash flow. Because a lot of us, like myself, have time on our hands, like we're able to fit things into our daily schedule, but we do not have the cash flow to invest in this. So Fictionary is going to help you with that. Fictionary is a self-editing, structural editing, specifically software, and it is going to help immensely in getting your book from that rough draft stage into final draft stage. If you missed the video last week, I highly suggest you go back and watch this, because I'm not going to go over the nuts and bolts and ins and outs of what Fictionary stands for and does in this video. I'm just going to show you what the software looks like and how you can do it by hand and that sort of thing. But if you are interested in knowing more about what steps you take using Fictionary, the textbook, Secrets to Editing Success, which I highly suggest is well worth your money. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But all of the information about how Fictionary works and the structure that they use is in the last video. It's linked in the cards, it's linked in the description. It will be the end card of this video. Make sure you go back and watch that. This, however, is going to show you like how to use it, which is super exciting for me, and I think it's super cool. So let's jump in. So to start with, this is the textbook. And if you don't have a lot of money to invest, this is the best investment you can make. It is 20 bucks. It's on Amazon, and I cannot tell you how much this changed the way that I write. I can't express how much it changed the way that I feel about editing now. I hated editing. I thought that it was confusing and boring, and this book made me excited to edit. And Fictionary's software and method gave me a pathway, and all of this just changed everything for me as a writer. So if you have $20 to invest in yourself, this is how to do it. If you don't, you might have people who do birthday presents or holiday gifts. This is the top of your list, and just make them understand how important this $20 is to you, because this book will change the way you do everything. I cannot tell you how much this book means. It, like, you can tell, like, I have got tabs through all of this, and it's marked, and there are notes, and there's colors, and like, I went freaking overboard in this because everything was just eye-opening and made a huge difference in the way that I think about editing. So if you have $20, this is what you're going to do. You're going to buy this book. And that is going to change the way that you edit. And it's going to save you so much time and money in the long run. So $20, if you have it. I think with tax, depending on where you are, it's probably going to come out closer to 25. But this is your number one thing. This is what you tell everybody you want for your birthday or for a holiday, or if someone's like, I really would like to just get you something, this is what you say. You want Secrets to Editing Success by Christina Stanley and Lucy Cook, two of my absolute favorite people, by the way. They're awesome. And there's actually a way you can get to interact with them, and we'll talk about that soon. So I'm super excited. You can tell. Let's jump in. All right, we're going to go to screen sharing. Ta-da! Okay, so when you first get into Fictionary, this is what it looks like. And it feels really overwhelming. I'm not going to lie to you. The first time I got in here, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Where is everything? So Fictionary is going to show you what your story looks like. And that's the first thing you're going to do. When you load in your manuscript, it's going to have you look for where your scenes start and stop. And if you don't know where that is, that's okay. I highly suggest you do it before you upload your Word document into this. It does have to be a Word document, by the way. So if you write in Google Docs, or if you write in Scrivener, or if you write in anything else, you need to make sure that you've downloaded a Word document, a Microsoft Word document, to be able to load this up. I think it can also do RTF, but it can only do word processing documents. Now, once you get it loaded in, it's going to ask you where your scene breaks are, if you have multiple chapters, that kind of thing. And then it's going to show up and it's going to say, hey, I found all of these names that look like character names. And you're going to select which one is your protagonist. It's going to give you a chance to go through and like merge characters. So if you accidentally spelled a name wrong, we've talked about this, I struggle with that. Then you can go through and merge characters and say, oh no, I really did mean to spell it the correct way that time. This isn't a separate character. It's just a misspelling. It'll go through and merge all of that for you so that you don't need to worry about that. So once you've done that, this is what you get. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how it looks for the story arc. So this is my permafree that I'm working on right now and revising actually right now. It still needs a title. Stranded is not the title. If you Google Stranded book, you're going to figure out why Stranded is not my title. But let's jump in. So this is the manuscript insights, and it's going to show you what your story is, and your story is the yellow one, what your story arc looks like compared to what the recommended story arc is based on the algorithm. Remember from last week, you are the creative story editor. So if it doesn't match here, then that's okay. You just need to be able to say why. So we talked about how my plot point 2 last week for this story, it actually matches for the Fictionary algorithm. It says it's the same thing, but my plot point 2 isn't a regular plot point 2 in a lot of the standard romance novels that you see. But you can see here, it thinks my climax is a different scene. And I know it's not, and I can back that up because the climax is them choosing each other. It just happens to happen in a scene that does have a lot of words in it, but it doesn't have a lot of movement in it because the climax is emotional and relationship based, not action based. So this algorithm is going to look at things and think more on that scale. There's a lot of other cool stuff that you can visualize with this that the algorithm will make for you. It will show you what your word count per scene is. And you can go through and you can look at that, and that's good information to have because you want to make sure that like your climax, which this is my climax, has a significant number of words in it because there's a lot that should be happening there, and mine does. And so you can go through and you can get a feel for that, and you can say, oh, I have a lot of words. So here's a good example. Scene 14 is my plot point 2, but scene 13 has a whole lot of words in it. And so that's something I need to go back and look at. I need to find out why. Why is scene 13 so word heavy and plot point 2 is not? That isn't a bad thing, but it's something that I need to be aware of. Do I have a lot of fluff in scene 13 that I need to go through and fix? Or are there things in scene 13 that actually need to be in my plot point 2? They're part of plot point 2, and I've been building up to it, and I maybe put them in too early. So there's stuff like that you can figure out. So like right here, scene 3, that's my inciting incident. And it's a lot. It's 1,500 words. So it gives you a feel for what your scenes are. And this is a good way to control pacing. So it helps you to control pacing and figure out how quickly you're moving your reader through the story. So like scenes 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. I know what those scenes are, and they do move fast because a lot is happening, and I am getting you through bang, 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 because this is a this is a fighting sequence, essentially. They're fighting for their lives through here. And so there's a lot of action. And that tells me that I have got 5 action scenes in a row. And I can go back and look at that and determine, do I want to do this? Am I okay taking the reader and pulling them 5 scenes through of just action, 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 action? Am I wearing them out? Have I exhausted my reader by the time I get to scene 12? Do I want them to be exhausted? Because my characters are. But do I want the reader to feel that too? This gives me an idea of what that's going to be. It also will show me things like scenes per chapter, which is handy to know, and that also helps with pacing. And then I can, let's see, I'm not going to do those just yet. We'll come back to those. But then it will go through and it'll show me insights on my character, on my plot, and on my setting. So it'll show me, if I click here, it'll show me the characters per scene, which is good to know, because if you end up with a scene that's got like more than 7 characters in it, you might want to rethink that. It's really hard for a reader to keep track of a lot of people. And so scene 4 is on my revision tasks, is a scene that needs to be looked at, because 7 characters is a lot of characters. And I need to make sure that they're really well introduced before we ever get to scene 7 or scene 4, and that they know who these characters are. So that's something that I need to make sure. And I think I've done that pretty well, but I want to check on that. And then you can see over here, this is one of my resolution scenes. And so there are 7 there because we're wrapping things up and you're getting back to all of the 7 characters that have played a part here. I'll also tell you how many characters or how many scenes each character gets. So these are my 2 main characters, and you can tell. And then it'll tell you how many POV characters you have if you filled it in, and it will show you how much of the, like what percentage of the book they get. And then it'll show you character arc, which you fill in. It's one of the story elements you fill in. It lets you know how things are going. This tells you right here that I've got a really low point where the characters move very, very far away from their story goal, and then they spend a lot of time building back up to their story goal. That's something that can get exhausting for a reader, and so that's something that's on my revision list to check. My one thing that I really hope Fictionary puts in at some point, because this is a browser-based software, so it can update continuously. The one thing I really want them to do is make it so I can have dual protagonists, because I do have dual protagonists. I don't just have dual POV. I have dual protagonists, and I have to just pick one of them, and it just says that Hannah is my main character and my protagonist, and it just goes through and it shows that. But half of these are Nicholas. Half of these are my other protagonist. So I would really, really love for at some point to be able to have a dual protagonist character arc. So hopefully that's in the works. We'll find out. As of 2023, it's not there. Okay, here is where all of that information gets put together. So most of what I showed you, the only thing that fills in when you first put in your manuscript is the arc of your story, the story arc. Everything else, Pro Writing Aid is trying to be helpful. Everything else happens because you fill it in. So Fictionary breaks it up by character, all of the 38 elements that we talked about before, character, plot, and setting. And then you also have a space for notes. And so you fill all of this in, and you fill it in based off of the information that you learned from Secrets to Editing Success. It goes through and explains everything to you. And then you can fill all of this information in, and once you get it all filled in, all of those pretty graphs come up. And so like one of the things that I said we'd come back to over here, let's see, there it is, story map. Once everything's filled in, then I can come over here and I can say, let's just select all. I want to see all 38 story elements for each scene. And so it will show me all of those things. But let's say that I'm actually working on the setting. So I want to only look at whether or not I've got weather and location, and then I need to put the scene name so I know what I'm looking at. There we go. Okay. So this just tells me whether or not I have weather established, which you can tell I struggle there, because there's lots of not established and needs work. But this helps me form my revision plan. So it tells me that most of what I write, I don't tend to include whether or not there's weather going on. And if I do, then a lot of times it needs some help. And that's stuff that I've filled in. That's stuff that I've filled in over here. I've gone through and I've put a check mark. This is actually just the square root sign. But I put a check mark in for the times that I have, I've done it well. Like I was like, oh no, I actually put weather in here. I remembered to do that. And it's my first scene. So that's part of why I've ever remembered to do it. But you fill everything in, and then it makes it so you can actually take that step back and look at what your entire draft needs help on, which is just really, really cool. It's something that I absolutely adore. So this is what the software looks like. Now, I'm going to bring us back over here to, oops, go away, Pro Writing Aid. Stop. There we go. I'm back. Okay. So you can use the software and you can do all of it with the software, but you don't have to, because when I first learned about Fictionary, I didn't do it with the software. I did it by hand. And you can do that. So this binder, ta-da, was my binder for Fictionary. And the manuscript that you actually got to see a little bit of, and all of the stuff for Hannah and Nicholas, that was stuff that I did. Like this is the second time around of going through and doing that, because I originally did it here. Let's see, make sure we can see that. So I created my original story arc, and I did word count per scene, and I went through and I named all the scenes, and I did all of the elements. I'm tearing things out. That's okay. We don't need this anymore. And I went through and I did all of the character arc things, and I did all of the plot things. So conflict and purpose and arc, and I filled all of this out, and I did it on dot matrix paper, and I did it by hand. You can also do it in spreadsheets. Spreadsheets and I are not friends. I leave them alone. They leave me alone. It's a wonderful symbiotic relationship. But it let me go through, and I did all of it by hand, and I filled it in, and you can tell that I am a designer because everything is in pretty colors. And I figured and I did all of this by hand the first time, and it made such a huge difference. Now, it makes an even bigger difference to have it like real-time uploading, because all of my graphs I had to make myself, and I had to take the time to put them together. And it takes a heck of a lot longer to do it that way. But having the real time of looking at that story arc map, or looking at the story arc and looking at the story map, where I can say, okay, just tell me how I did with weather, and everything pops up with just the weather, that is a game changer. Because all of the sudden I know, oh, I need to go back through every single scene and add in weather, or determine if weather needs to be put in there or not. If they're inside like the inner room of a building with no windows, then no, weather's not important. But my story takes place on a ship and in the ocean. Weather's important. Weather determines a ton with that. And that's something that I didn't realize I wasn't doing until I was able to look at it here and go, oh, that's not in my document. That's not in the story. And it should be. It's really, really awesome. So the next thing that I want to show you is the community. Let's go there. There we go. So here is the Fictionary Circle community. And I really, really love this whole place. Like the people who are in here are amazing. This is on Circle. So if you already have a Circle account, you can just jump in and you can join it and be a part of it. But they call us Fictionarians. That's what we call ourselves. I love it. And this is the kindest, most supportive community ever. For writers, editors, what have you. And I absolutely adore being here. They do a whole bunch of really cool events, and this is completely free. Being in the community is completely free. And they also let's go over here to events. They do a bunch of really awesome events. This comes up on September 8th, which will be before this video airs. And Pro Writing Aid is coming in to talk about rephrase and how that feature works, which is super cool. And they do a whole bunch of other things like that. If you pay for a Fictionary subscription, and you must pay the annual subscription, you cannot pay the month-to-month one. So if you pay for the annual subscription, which actually gives you a discount, but if you pay for the annual subscription, you get access to Fictionary Live. And this is the best investment if you have the money to do it, because this will teach you how to edit. It will also teach you a lot of other things. So there is an outlining course that you can take there that is just once a week, 6 weeks to outline and learn how to do all of your outline beforehand. I'm a discovery writer, and I even think that this would be cool. The only problem I have is that it's 7 a.m. my time, and that is the exact time that I'm getting children up and getting them out the door and out to school. So I can't make this, but it is well worth it. They also have an editing class, they have a revising class, and they are working to add more classes. And so the more people who sign up to the annual subscription, the more classes we get here in the Fictionary Live. So that is super exciting. So again, completely free to be in this community. There are free events. Most of them are not recorded. Most of them you have to show up live for. But they talk about writing in general. They talk about a lot of the 38 story elements and help you dive in deeper to those. It's fantastic, like everything that they do, and well worth coming and being a part of the community, because it is free and there are free events and you don't have to pay for anything and you can just make stuff work. It's fantastic. So now I want to show you, let's see, here we go. So this is Fictionary's website. You can do a free trial. They give you the first 2 weeks free. So even if you pay for the annual subscription, your first 2 weeks are always going to be free. But I want to show you that this is what the website's going to look like when you get there. And they've got things for writers. So the things for writers, this is going to teach you more about the different things that they have for writers. Most of this is paid. Yes, all of this is paid. If you are interested in becoming a professional editor, they have a class for that. And then this will take you to Fictionary's Circle community. These are the resources, which there's tons and tons of them. We're going to look at a couple of them. And then there's also the pricing. So let's jump over and look at the resources. So they have a blog that has articles about all of their work that they do with the 38 story elements, but they also have things that are separate from that. So tips to get you started, a systematic novel, giving you a system for novel editing. So there's a whole bunch of articles in here, things like Campfire, gets to come in and do a guest blog. There's a lot of other people who do that as well. Apps for writers. There's just so much in here. Finding parody in television, film, and music. There's so much. Writing sympathetic characters. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and I'm not going to scroll to the bottom for it. But there are blog articles, and all of these articles are free. And you can go through and say, well, actually, I need ones that are specific for writers. And you can click on that, and it will come up, and it will give you just ones that are writer specific instead of for editors. And it shortens it by just a little bit, so you don't have forever to scroll through. They also have a page that is just the 38 story elements, and they go through and they will work through all of those with you in their YouTube videos, as well as expand upon them here. And so you can load all 38 of them, and it will, and this is how I did it by hand. So I didn't have the secrets to editing success for a good while. I did Fictionary by hand using this page here and the blog articles that link to them. And that was all I did. That was how I filled everything out. That was how I did Fictionary the first time. And it was still life-changing. The book is definitely well worth the $20 if you have it, but if you can't and you have to do everything for free, this is like, if you're paying in time, this is gold. And all of this is linked down below in the description, so you'll be able to get to it. All right, so finally, the pricing. So if you are a writer, then you just need Storyteller. You don't need these. If you're a beginning writer, this is all you need. Now it is $20 a month, or if you switch to annual, then it's $169 a year. I would highly suggest switching to annual. If you can afford it, if you can put together the money for it, this is what I would suggest you do. Because it gives you access to Fictionary Live. And being able to take those classes and have Fictionary experts and editing professionals walk you through how to self-edit and how to self-revise and how to outline, and there's some cool stuff in the works that I'm really excited about. I highly suggest that if you can afford it, that this is the best bang for your buck. It gives you so much. And if you think about it, hiring a professional editor is going to come in, depending on how long your manuscript is, anywhere from a few $100s to a few $1,000s. $169 a year before tax, obviously, is almost nothing in comparison to one book costing you potentially a couple $1,000s. Like, it's absolutely well worth your money, especially with the classes, because you can, I mean, I know classes that you pay $169 for the one class. And I've already taken the editing class twice and the revising class once, the 6 weeks to edit your novel and the 6 weeks to revise your novel. And I would still be in the revise your novel class, except that it's offered at 7:00 in the morning, my time. And that's when I'm getting kids out the door for school. So it is epic. Like, they are giving away so much in that price tag. And I will 100% tell you that this is the best investment that I think you can make in yourself as a writer. If you are planning to do self-editing, and if you're planning to try and save money as much as possible, if you can come up with the $169 a year, I'd put it here. I would put it here before I put it in a website. I would put it here before I paid for a cover. I would put it here before all of that, for the amount that it gives you in return. Okay, that was a lot. I'm really excited about this, so I probably went really fast. But I'm going to link everything down below in the description, so you'll have it and you can go through and look at it slower, because I went really fast because I was excited. But once you've gone through and you've looked at everything and you've put it all together, I think that you're going to find that Fictionary is the best investment you can make on a shoestring budget. And even if the only investment you can make is the $20 for this book, then that's perfect. Like, I think that this is really the number one thing that you need. The software makes it nice, because the software allows you to see things almost instantaneously. Like, I can enter in everything for a scene and immediately go over to the graphs and everything like that. And I don't have to do any extra work with it, but I can. And I did, if you remember, because we looked at all of this. I did it by hand. I went through and made all of those graphs by hand. I went through and put everything in on dot matrix paper. But this book, like I said, $25. Get someone to buy you a present. I mean, literally, if you have zero money to put towards this, find somebody who will do it. Go to your local library and tell them, I want you to buy a book so I can check it out. And then they're going to buy the book. Hopefully. Be really nice to them. Bring them cookies or something. I don't know. Get your local librarian to buy the book and then go check it out and just sit there and keep renewing it and hope that nobody ever figures out that they bought the book. But get the book. This is the number one investment that you can make if you're self-publishing on a shoestring budget. You can have a free website. You can have a whole bunch of other stuff, like a ton of what goes in to self-publishing can be done for zero money and just time investment. If you only have $25 to invest in yourself, this is where you do it. Because this is going to make a product that will actually grab readers' attention and pull them from once upon a time all the way to the end. And that's invaluable. And then if you have the extra money that you can put places, like I said before, I would put it into the $169 a year for the software. If for nothing else than the classes. If for nothing else than the classes that you can take, I would put the $169 there every year. And I do. I am publishing on a shoestring budget. I have very, very little money that I can invest in this, and most of it is from little bits that I'm able to take off of my personal work as a designer and the little bit that we can squeeze out of the work that my husband does. I don't have a lot of money to put here, but we find the money to be able to do this every year. And this was actually this was a gift from my husband. I didn't know that I would have the money to do this. That's why I was doing it by hand. And he scrimped enough together so that we could put the $169 a year into this, into Fictionary annual subscription. So I hope that gives you an idea of how much I value this and how much I think it really is worth every single penny you put into it, especially for discovery writers, but for any writer who is trying to self-publish on a nothing budget, because this changes the game. There are a lot of people who will tell you hands down, don't you dare publish a book before you've sent it to a professional editor. I would agree that most of the time, that's the ideal situation. However, I do know authors who do not structurally edit their books and are wildly successful. One of them is TJ Green. She is a huge paranormal romance author. She actually talks to authors a lot about building superfans. She calls it a coven of superfans, and I adore that. And she writes really great books. And she does not get a structural editor for her books. If you understand story structure, and if you're able to step back from your book enough, like if you can take the proverbial 20 feet step back and you have good beta readers, this is your path forward. Fictionary lets you take that proverbial step backwards and then be able to edit as a creative story editor and look through what's actually going on in your book and see it objectively. That makes all the difference. And when you combine that with feedback from beta readers, you can create a scenario where you're not needing that structural edit because you've done it. And you can put that money into a proofread, or you can put that money into anywhere else that feels like the right place for you to put it. Again, I get nothing for saying this. I get no kickbacks. I get no benefits. I'm not affiliated. None of the links below are affiliate links. This is literally just something I'm passionate about, something I 100% believe in and think is worth every penny you put into it, and that the process is worth more than anybody realizes right now. I personally think that this is the ticket to get more people into self-publishing and taking more walls down. Because right now, there is a paywall, and it's called a structural editor. And while I think the structural editor is an amazing thing and a helpful thing, Fictionary is creating a scenario where it doesn't have to be a necessary thing. Not for everybody. There will be people who this is not going to help them. They'll still need a structural editor. But for the people who can take that step backwards, Fictionary is creating a pathway forward so that that structural edit becomes something you do on your own. And your revision process is guided by you as a creative story editor and the work that you're doing and the feedback you get from beta readers. And that's pretty darn amazing if you ask me. Okay, this was a lot of information. This was kind of a long video. I apologize. But If you want to not miss out on the videos that are coming up, we're going to start going through and designing the cover for the book that you got a little snippet of as I was going through and showing you all the things, Nicholas and Hannah's story. So the cover design for that, I've got the next video installment there. And I've got other videos coming out as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. I post videos on Wednesdays about cover design, discovery writing, and self-publishing on a shoestring budget. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It lets other authors find it. And then if you enjoyed this video, or if you think you might be checking out Fictionary, I really hope to see you in the Circle community. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments if you join, and I'll be sure to go find your first post in the Introduce Yourself section. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.